Hey, Ron with ronschoice.com. Uh, Most of you that know me and have been following me, it's all about happiness, health, and prosperity. The Ron's Choice is mainly about you. I always it's always finding a challenge on what to say because I feel like uh, I'm a lot more enlightened than I used to be, but I'm still a human. So a lot of the past things that I've experienced come up into my mind, and then I have to stay in control. I'm a very emotional person, always have been. A lot of the things that I went through personally in my life, they really got to me, and it affected me in a way to where I found myself overreacting to stuff, whether it was something my kids said or something they did outside the house and I took it personally, or whether it was a partner or a friend or something happened at work. And then later I found out that, oh, they really didn't mean that, or it wasn't taken the way I thought it was. So, in a way, I'm what I call projecting. I have a thought in my mind and I put that on other people so I see it. Another name for it is I've heard before is you spot it, you got it. So meaning if it's something you recognize in someone else, you're actually recognizing it in yourself. So and again, this is all about self-reflection. Uh, their emotions are great. They're our guidance system. There's a time to be afraid. There's a time to be angry. There's a time to be happy. But I personally got to the point where I didn't like it controlling me unnecessarily. So, in self respect, in self introspection, you have to ask yourself, why are you doing these things? And you have to be careful where you get your information from. There's a lot of people that, and even some of the people that I follow, they're like, oh, you got to follow your gut, you got to follow your heart. It comes from the heart. And it's all everything is relative. It's based off of what you know, how you define something, how you learn something. So going by your heart might mean something different to you than it does to me. But going by your heart means going by instinct. Where do we get instinct? Instinct comes from experience, right? So if you've had bad experiences, your instincts are going to say to stay away from that or that person or that situation or be careful. Or, for example, I've got a friend that got in a car wreck and he, what happened? He got thrown from the car or he had his seatbelt on and couldn't get out. I can't remember. But as far as I know, to this day, he won't wear his seatbelt because that caused him a problem at that point. So even though statistics show that seatbelts are, good and safe and whatever, well, that was his experience. And same thing, like with relationships. If you've had bad relationships, you've got your guard up, and so you're projecting. So when someone says something that someone else had said before, you're taking your past experience and bringing it into that situation. That's why I always say you have to be aware of yourself, of your thoughts, and you have to identify, you have to address each situation individually, each person individually. I know that there's a lot going on in the news. There's a lot going on social media, and it depends on where you look. If you watch Fox News, you get a majority of a certain information. If you watch CNN, you get a majority of a certain information. So you have to have the ability to stay neutral. That's the time to stay neutral. You don't get upset and emotional by things that you see or hear on TV. When it's happening, maybe, but you have to be able, you have to take time to sit down and be aware of yourself. So when you are in a situation, because that's what I'm hearing, And you have to give it to cops because, okay, cops are in a certain situation. This happens, that happens. You got to think quickly. Well, they're trained for that, right? They took that job. Each day they go through training scenarios, and even probably when they sit at home, they're in their mind. Well, if I go through this, we do the same thing. If I go somewhere, even if it's a job interview, I'm going to do this. I'm going to act like this. I'm going to say this. I'm going to act this way. If he asks me this, this is how I'm going to respond. I used to envision if I got carjacked, what would I do? How would I handle it? Would I take the gun from the person and I'd go through the scenario? Uh, so when that scenario does happen, I've already gone through it in my mind, and I know pretty much how I'm going to act. A lot of that we don't know. We don't always know what we're going to do until we get in that situation. That's happened to me several times. I look back and I was like, damn, if you would have asked me that's how I was going to act in that situation, no way. So don't get so emotionally attached to the stuff that you see on TV and in social media, because that's just the tip of the iceberg. It's always the tip. There's always another side. No matter how thin you slice a magnet, there's a positive and a negative. That's what makes this world turn. That's what makes this whole universe, this whole thing, is polarity. If you have three people in a situation, you've got three sides of the story, because everybody has a lens that they're going to see it from. They're going to project into that situation things they've been through before and what they saw, which might not have been everything. This is scientifically proven, psychologically proven. So, when I've had this conversation with people before that, they're like, well, I don't want to be cold. I don't want to be unsympathetic. You don't have to be. I'm still extremely emotional. I mean, uh, I could bring up an emotion right now if I wanted to, like actors do, that would cause me to tear up. But you have to be aware of yourself and know when is the right time. How many times have you accused someone of something and it wasn't accurate? Or vice versa, you've been accused and it wasn't accurate because someone didn't understand your intention. I can say the same thing as someone else, but they could mean it in a different way. Inflection. Sometimes people can't tell sarcasm. They think it's serious. Even when I joke around, I my brother the other day, he's like, I can't tell. Are you being sarcastic or serious? So we don't know. We have to, there's a point where we have to kind of stay neutral for a minute and let the brain analyze. But this all takes time to be aware. I'm a huge proponent of meditation, and meditating to me is not just sitting around, it's sitting there going through scenarios in your head, past scenarios, future scenarios, and coming to a fairly solid solution to how you want to react to something, a good baseline. I'll use the COVID as an experience, as an example. People say, well, listen to the scientists, follow the science, follow the data. Well, you listen to one doctor who's, got great credentials. He says one thing. This doctor says another. And sometimes this doctor says one thing and 2 months later says right the opposite, leaving us a little confused. So then it comes down to, let me sit down and think about this and let me rationalize, how does this affect me and my environment? Should I wear a mask? Should I social distance? Should I go around these people? Should I do this? Should I do that? What's the bottom line? What's the common denominator that I'm hearing from all the doctors and all the reports and the actual things that are happening? For me, it was, hands to the face. However you get it, which somebody sneezing or coughing in your face, that's rare. And especially now, because if someone's sick, they stay at home. Nobody wants to cough or sneeze, even if it's an accident. So besides that, keeping your distance, when you go somewhere and you touch something, you sanitize. I carry a small hand sanitizer with me, and I sanitize my hands because I have a bad habit of rubbing my eyes or picking my teeth or whatever, and I've tried to quell that. But I'm like, sanitize my hands. I'm good. I mean, as far as I know, there's really still no answer because the last thing the CDC said was that it doesn't spread on surfaces like they originally thought. So, me personally, I'm looking at all these riots and all these big crowds, which they're just crowds of people. They're not like in a subway or at an amusement park where everybody's touching stuff. They're just close together. Now, some people are looking at that and saying, well, if there's a spike, then it's real, because some people still don't think that the COVID-19 is real. And some people say, well, if there's no spike, then it was fake. I look at it, well, this was global. You would have to have an awful lot of collusion for the whole world to be in on it. So I kind of throw out the fact that it was fake. I believe it was real. So at this point, it's like, does it really spread by close contact? If it does, then we're going to see a spike in all these areas where these people are protesting in close proximity, because I think from what I've seen, a majority of them don't have masks on. That would tell me that it spreads being close. If it doesn't spike, then that tells me that it doesn't spread being close. It spreads more of contacting things and putting your hands in your face. So we'll see what happens. And it's a challenge. Life is a challenge. That's why we're here. That's why all this stuff happens. We didn't come here on this earth, and that's a conversation for another time. But just to be happy, and it's to love, to hate, to create. It's to innovate. It's uh, polarities. It's that's what makes this whole thing work, and it's unfortunate that that there's sadness and people beating people, and uh, just there's a lot of there's a lot of great people out there. There's a lot of great things that happen, and you won't see very much of that being spotlighted. But there's also a lot of terrible, awful, crazy shit that goes on out there that we don't see. And you would just, I mean, we would, it's just, the thought of it is just insane. So, I mean, you have to find your place. Rioting, protesting, to me, there is no right or wrong. You got to do what you got to do. People got to do what they got to do. But for those that want critical thinking, that want to find peace and happiness and enlightenment in all of this, you have to be critical. You have to try and stay centered. You have to keep things separated. There's protesters, there's peaceful protesters, and there's rioting. So when someone like of authority says, this has to be stopped, this is what we're going to do, we're going to take major force. Well, there's people that look at it, well, it's just peaceful protest. That's not what they're talking about. You have to separate the two. That conversation goes towards the rioters. We have to get rid of the rioters. You can't be going around tearing shit up. There's a consequence, cause and effect. It's I just know that there's a lot of people out there learning life lessons. They're learning more about themselves as this goes on with whatever situation they're in. I'm just telling you, it's my belief, it's my experience from my heart that you have more control over it. There are people that are going to want to take this further and be more proactive. Instead of just posting stuff on Facebook, they're going to want to go and make a change in the world. I just say that it depends on where you stand. Uh, be careful where you get your information and what information you share. If you care, if you want to be sincere, if you want to see things for what they are, then you'll find yourself being able to step back a little bit instead of like this and seeing what the media wants to see, where the camera is, because I don't know what's an example. I mean, I'm sure there's several examples, and it happens in the news all the time. It happens on YouTube and on social media where they just show one clip of something, and it totally misrepresents it. Even the news does it. Even news channels will take a clip from what they do last time. There was a gun show or something in Kentucky, and they said that was Iran, that was us bombing Iran. You know, and it's sad that national TV, they're not accountable for what they show us. And that's why I always bring it down. It's you're responsible for yourself. Before you go sharing memes or posting this or posting that, if you want to be enlightened and you want to be, in my opinion, a help towards the solution, then you don't add anything that can ignite. You don't post anything negative. That's just my opinion. And like I said, everybody has to do what they want, and it's good for people to be transparent and to show their true colors. But even at that same time, even on that point, I'm like, I don't judge someone because of what they posted, because I understand that people are going through things. Maybe they didn't know. I know people that have posted stuff and they mentioned it, and I said, yeah, did you realize that was that was fake, that was debunked, and they're like, oh, I didn't know that, so they go take it down. Uh, find more time for peace and quiet for yourself. Find what makes your soul happy. You're here. There's an art of selfishness, and then there's a book out there that covers that. It's just like they say, when the oxygen mask comes down in the airplane, you got to put it on yourself first, because this is affecting people mentally, just like COVID-19 did. This whole riot thing, it's affecting people where they can't uh, function properly and with a clear mind at home with their kids. You're slightly agitated, or at work. So you have to find peace with it. You have to find the common ground, what you want to accomplish. Be the light. Be the light in the darkness. If that, again, if that's what you want, I'm not condemning anybody that's out there spreading bullshit or whatever. I mean, I see you. I see it. I see it for what it is. Um, but again, this is for self-reflection, for where you want to be. What do you want in your life? Do you want happiness? Do you want to be calm? Do you want to be aware? Do you really want to be a force that makes a difference? And that always starts right here. That always starts with you as an individual. So I love you. I love you all. And if I'm up to it, I'll see you tomorrow.